Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. Please hit the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel, like and share this video, as well as drop a comment on the comment section. Today, we are going to be looking at the meaning of national interest. The meaning of national interest. Okay, according to Gordon Marshall, okay, in his work, The Concise Oxford Dictionary of Sociology, written in 1994, particularly page 54, he defines interest, okay, as to interest to refer to whatever contributes to the general well-being or the fulfillment of the purpose of an individual. Okay, so the word was originally developed from from the materialist perspective. One of the highest writers of interest was Thomas Hobbes. In his political philosophy, he defines interest from a materialist perspective to mean self-preservation. Other philosophers, particularly those in political economy, also define interest in a similar manner as self-interest. So while Thomas Hobbes was concerned about, powers, the political economists were concerned with and about wealth. Thus, interest in its original sense meant acquiring power and wealth. Okay, so bringing interest down to international relations, Hans Morgenthau made his submission to say that, national interest, national interest is actually used for foreign policy. Okay, so according to him, national interest refers to the interest of the state. It must be defined in terms of power, and this means that the primary interest of states, okay, must be that such interest can and should be backed by adequate powers. So therefore, national interest broadly concerned is to guide the formulation of foreign policy. It is not an end in itself, but a means to an end. In other words, foreign policy is actually a means of national interest is actually a means of reaching a nation's national interests. Okay, so now let us still look at the definition of Hans Morgenthau. Hans Morgenthau still went ahead to say that national interest is determined by political tradition, and the total cultural context within which a nation formulates its foreign policy. So according to him, it is a protection of physical, political, and cultural identity against encroachment by other nation states. Okay, so when we're talking about national interest, we are actually looking at it from the perspective of just interest first. And like I've just said, interest is anything that contributes to someone's self-preservation. Anything that is actually of interest, anything that contributes to someone's survival is his interest. So when we're talking about national interest, we're talking about the interest of the nation or interest of his state. And this interest is actually wrapped in the values, the tradition, and the customs of the people. So when we're talking about a nation's interest, anything that contributes to the survival of that nation, anything that affects the culture and tradition of that nation, anything that affects the economy of that nation, anything that affects the security of that nation or the politics of that nation, such things are actually they border on the national interest of such nations or such nation. Okay, so now let us drum this national interest down to Nigeria and use Nigeria as a case study. Let us use Nigeria as a case study. So, in using Nigeria as a case study, it is actually very important that Nigeria's national interest, according to IBB, for example, can be seen as military, economic, political, and social security. According to him, anything that will enhance the capacity of Nigeria to defend her national security must be seen as being in her interest. Anything that promotes Nigeria's economic growth and development is her national interest. Anything that will make Nigeria politically stable is also her national interest. So now let us look at Nigeria's national interest right now. Nigeria's national interest right now. Now, the official statement of Nigeria's foreign policy was first made by Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa in the House of Representatives in August 1960. So, national interest of Nigeria was first defined and conceived in all Nigerian People's Conference on Foreign Policy held in Lagos in April 1961. The conference began with an address by the federal government on the challenges facing the newly independent country in the international system. Okay, so those challenges will actually come up, to actually form what is known as Nigeria's national interest. Okay, so now let us continue. Now, what are the ways in which Nigeria can actually define her national interest? What are the ways, the various ways in which Nigeria can define her national interest? Number one is manifestos of political parties. Manifestos of political parties. Now the various manifestos of political parties, can be sieved. Okay, particularly those things they are core values, those things that they want to actually deliver to Nigerians, okay, can actually be sieved and be put into the Nigeria's national interest, okay, and be put, they can be sieved and be expanded, okay, to be the Nigeria's national interest. Because those things that Party A have, those programs that Party A has, and the programs that Party B has, and the program that Party C has, all of them put together will actually determine the national interest of Nigeria. Okay, that is number one. Number two is conferences and conventions. Now, most conferences and conventions of Nigeria that have been held in Nigeria, most of them have been known to have deliberated on issues that border on the interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. Those things that will actually lead to the survival and will enhance the interest of the nation, socially, politically, and security-wise, are those things that have always been discussed at various conferences and conventions. All of these things that have been discussed, all of these things, all of the recommendations that have been made over the years can actually be sieved, to be the national interest of Nigeria. Okay, then we also have development plans. We have the first development plan, the second, the third, the rolling plans, and all of that. All of these development plans can also be sieved, as the Nigeria's national interest. Okay, so now let us look at the Constitution of Nigeria. Now, in real life, national interest is defined, okay, in real life, the national interest of Nigeria can be found in the Constitution of Nigeria, particularly the 1999 Constitution as amended. In Section 4, in Section 14, subsection 2B, The Constitution says the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. It therefore means that Nigeria's national interest was defined in the process of clarifying or in the process of drafting the Constitution. Section 16 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, provided modalities for managing the Nigerian economy, okay, in such a manner as to promote the security and welfare of the people. Now, Section 19 outlines the foreign policy objective, which includes promotion and protection of her national interest, promotion of African integration for consolidation of universal peace, respect for international law and treaty obligations, promotion of just world economic order, okay, and all of that. So one of the controversial issues, okay, in Nigerian foreign policy is whether or not Nigeria should recognize Israel as a state, and have diplomatic relations with her, okay. But the bottom line when we talk about national interest is that as it has evolved over the years, the core of Nigeria's national interest, okay, is our own material well-being in terms of national security, political stability, and economic development. All of these actually are the central focus of the Nigeria's national interest. If you must discuss Nigeria's national interest, as well as any national interest, as well as the national interest of any country, you must look at it from the perspective of the well-being of that nation in terms of her national security, political stability, and economic development. Once these aspects of a nation's life has been touched, then the national interest of that nation has been touched as well, or invariably. So national interest is actually everything that has to do with national security, is everything that has to do with political stability, and everything that has to do with economic development. Thank you very much.